You know, there's this idea floating around, and it's a little unsettling. The theory is that the internet we all knew, it's already dead, and that something else, something kind of strange, has taken its place. So, let's get into it.
Yeah, that's the big question, right? Are we just wandering through a digital graveyard and we don't even know it? Are our social media feeds, our search results, are they just ghosts of what they used to be?
Well, this whole phenomenon actually has a name. They're calling it slop, and it's exactly what it sounds like. All that bizarre, worthless, totally nonsensical content that's just flooding our feeds, all generated by AI. I'm talking about things like weird AI-generated country songs on Spotify, or armies of bots in the comments, or, and this is a real thing, shrimp Jesus. Yeah, this swarm of images with these weird man-shrimp hybrids on Facebook is pretty much Exhibit A. It's the perfect example of what we're talking about.
But look, this isn't just about a couple of weird pictures. Some experts are genuinely worried that we are witnessing the end of the web as we've known it. They think it's literally drowning under this endless tide of meaningless images, empty corporate speak, and get this, entire armies of users who aren't even real.
And the stakes here, they're incredibly high. We're not just talking about your online experience being a little less fun. The real fear is that the actual usefulness of the internet, this incredible tool that's been compared to the invention of writing itself, is at risk of completely collapsing. Okay, so why is this happening? Who is making all of this junk? And more importantly, what's the point? Well, it all boils down to a very simple and, as it turns out, very profitable playbook. So a journalist named Max Reed actually dug into these shrimp cheeses pages. He even managed to track down one of the creators, who basically laid out the whole formula for him. It's simple. First, you pick themes that you know are going to get tons of engagement. Things like religion, cute animals, or, a big sports team. Then, you just use AI to churn out endless pictures. If one of them goes viral, the platform pays you. It's a super simple, repeatable business model.
And this is the absolute key. The platforms themselves, they're not just innocent bystanders in all this. Their own algorithms, the ones designed to reward engagement above everything else, are actively funding this invasion. They are literally paying people to fill their websites with slop, which creates this vicious feedback loop that just demands more and more and more of it.
Look, bizarre pictures of shrimp people are one thing, right? They're weird, maybe a little funny, but what happens when that same logic, just create cheap, engaging content at a massive scale, gets applied to topics that are a lot more sensitive? This is where things start to get really, really disturbing.
It usually starts with stuff that's just absurd. In Germany, for instance, researchers found entire YouTube channels just dedicated to AI-generated fake news about celebrities. We're talking false death announcements, horrible abuse allegations, just the most bizarre gossip you can imagine. One researcher said he counted over 30,000 of these videos from just a handful of channels he was looking at.
But from absurd, it can quickly turn divisive. Those same tactics get used to create political disinformation. One channel put out a totally false story claiming a German supermarket was renaming its chocolate Easter bunnies out of respect for Muslims. I mean, it's a story designed for one reason and one reason only: to make people angry. And guess what? It worked. People bought it, they got furious, and they shared it everywhere.
And then it can become deadly. Seriously. On Amazon, AI-generated books about mushroom foraging started popping up. The problem? They are full of deadly errors. The New York Mycological Society had to issue a warning because these guides were literally telling people to eat poisonous, potentially fatal mushrooms. This isn't just annoying internet garbage anymore. Splop can be a genuine physical threat.
So you have to wonder, how can this technology be so wrong so often? To really get that, we need to take a quick look at what generative AI actually is, and maybe more importantly, what it isn't. Okay, so here's the fundamental difference between us and it. Your brain, my brain, we understand concepts. We know what true and false mean. And AI? It doesn't. At its very core, it's just a hyper-advanced prediction machine. It's not thinking, it's just calculating the most statistically likely word to come next in a sentence. It has absolutely zero concept of truth or falsehood or context.
In fact, researchers have this brilliant term for it. They call them stochastic parrots. The AI is just mimicking patterns it has seen in billions of pages of training data. It's just stringing words together in a way that sounds plausible, but without any real understanding. It's a parrot, not a philosopher.
And here is a perfect and frankly a pretty terrifying example of this in action. A researcher asked Google's new AI feature, has the United States ever had a Muslim president?
The AI confidently replied, yes, Barack Obama. Now that's false, but here's why it said that. One of its sources was a book chapter with the ironic title, Barack Obama, America's First Muslim President. See, the AI was completely unable to grasp the irony. It just took the headline as a literal fact.
Now, we talk about AI like it's this autonomous digital brain just humming away in a server somewhere, but that's not the whole story. The intelligence that we see has a secret ingredient. There's a massive, hidden human workforce that powers this whole system.
430 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. What on earth could that possibly be?
That is the high-end estimate for the number of people in the global data workforce. These are the human ghosts in the machine. We're talking about a population roughly the size of the entire European Union, working completely behind the scenes to make AI work.
And their work, it's grueling. In places like Kenya, you have workers getting paid less than $2 an hour to essentially teach the AI. Their job is to look at what the AI spits out and tell it, yep, that's good, or nope, that's bad. And their tasks can involve labeling incredibly traumatic content, graphic violence, corpses, for hours and hours on end. And it leads to anxiety, PTSD, with absolutely no mental health support.
You know, this whole crisis of AI-generated slop, it didn't just happen in a vacuum. It really feels like the logical and maybe inevitable conclusion of a process that's been happening to our online platforms for years.
The writer and activist Cory Doctorow has a name for this process. He calls it enshittification, and it's this predictable four-step decay. Step 1. A platform is really good to its users to get them to join. Step 2. It starts to abuse its users to make its business customers, like advertisers, happy. Step 3. It abuses the business customers to claw back all the value for itself and its shareholders. And finally, Step 4. With no value left for anyone, the platform dies. This AI-generated slop is not some accident. It's the final worthless stage of that exact process.
So, is there a way out of this mess? Well, paradoxically, the most optimistic scenario might be that the open web becomes so completely unusable, so full of slop, that we all have no choice but to just abandon it. The idea is that we'll get so sick of the endless, soulless garbage that we're forced to find smaller, more intentional, more human spaces, like private forums, or group chats, or Discord servers.
It's basically a retreat, right? A turning away from this huge, open, and now totally polluted public square of the internet. That old dream of a global village, maybe that's dying. But maybe, just maybe, it's being replaced by something we need even more, a return to the neighborhood. The only question left is, in this new, fractured online world, where will you find your people?